Hello and welcome back to Indistinct Chatter. I'm Aliza and it's almost the end of 2025. And wow, what a year, right? I was going to do my whole Spotify Wrapped thing, and don't worry, we'll get to that. I know that you're chomping at the bit to know what I listened to all year. But first, I need to talk about this absolutely wild year we just lived through. Also, if you haven't noticed, I have either really bad allergies or a little cold that I got while visiting home for Christmas. So we're just going with that. So sorry about the excessive mouth noises. I'm an insane mouth breather right now. I'm just stuffy. Okay? Life happens. So I'm thinking we do a month by month breakdown, just you and me. We'll go through the biggest stories, the weirdest moments, and all the stuff that made this year absolutely wonkers bonkers. Sound good? All right. Let's start from the beginning. Okay, so January, new year, fresh start, right? Wrong. We kicked off 2025 with, honestly, I don't even know where to start. On New Year's Day, literally January 1st, a man drove a truck into pedestrians on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, killing 14 people. And then, just hours later, a Tesla Cybertruck packed with explosives detonated outside a Trump hotel in Las Vegas, injuring 7 people. Both of these happened on the same day. The first day of the year. I remember waking up on January 2nd and thinking, okay, this year is already cursed. But it gets worse because then on January 7th, the LA wildfire started. And these weren't just regular wildfires. These were devastating. Pacific Palisades, Eaton Canyon, they burned for almost a month. 30 people died. And the damage is somewhere between 76 billion and like 131 billion or something crazy like that. It's one of the costliest disasters in US history. Also in January, Donald Trump was inaugurated as the 47th president. He's the second person ever to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. I think it was Grover Cleveland, maybe, back in the 1800s. And at 78, he became the oldest person to win the presidency. January was rough, you guys. February didn't let up either. The biggest story, and probably one that hit the hardest at the beginning of the year, was the big plane crash. It actually happened on my mom's birthday on January 29th, but it was all over the news in February, so I'm counting it as a February story. There was an American Airlines regional jet that collided with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter over the Potomac River near Reagan National Airport. Sadly, everyone on both aircraft was killed. And this was the nation's first major commercial airline crash since 2009. Just absolutely devastating. Now, here's a story that got buried under everything else, but it's actually kind of amazing. On February 4th, doctors at Massachusetts General Hospital successfully transplanted a genetically edited pig kidney into a human patient. A pig kidney. This is a huge breakthrough for solving the organ shortage crisis, but nobody was really talking about it because of everything else going on. And then there were the tariffs. Trump imposed 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, which immediately sparked retaliation. Canada announced counter tariffs, and some Canadian provinces actually banned U.S. alcohol. Trade wars are fun, right? March was when Mother Nature decided to just pop the fuck off. From March 13th to the 16th, there was a devastating tornado outbreak across the southern U.S. that killed at least 33 people. And then at the same time, Texas and Oklahoma were dealing with dust storms and 130 wildfires. And western Minnesota was getting hit with blizzard warnings. Just all of that happening at once. It was like the weather looked at the calendar and said, you know what, baby? Today is chaos. But here's the weird one. 2 rivers, one in Peru, one in Argentina, mysteriously turned bright red at the exact same time. No joke, no conspiracy, just bright red. And to this day, there's no satisfactory explanation for why it happened. Just 2 rivers, thousands of miles apart, turning red simultaneously. Spooky, right? Ooh! And then at the end of March, we got some really sad news that set the stage for April. Pope Francis had a stroke. He would pass away on April 21st at the age of 88. The world mourned. He'd been such an influential figure, and knowing he was declining was really heavy for even I think for people who aren't Catholic. So yeah, April was intense as well. On April 22nd, gunmen opened fire on tourists in India. I'm not sure how to pronounce this, so I'm so sorry. Palgam in Jammu and Kashmir. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. But this killed 26 people. And this wasn't just a local incident, it did escalate pretty quickly. India launched missile strikes on Pakistani bases on May 7th, and suddenly we had two nuclear armed nations in a sharp conflict. It was pretty scary. Thankfully, a ceasefire was called on May 10th, but for a few days there, it was genuinely terrifying. On a much smaller scale, but still significant, Hungary pulled out of the International Criminal Court on April 3rd. This barely made the news, but if you know anything about geopolitics, that's actually a big deal. Good news though, on April 21st, the FDA approved the first in-home cervical cancer test. This is a game changer for women's healthcare access, especially for people who have trouble getting to a doctor. And don't even get me started on how just women's bodies are not studied nearly as much as men's. And surprise, men, you can also get endometriosis. So maybe study bodies more than just men. Okay, May. This is where things got a little historic. After Pope Francis passed in April, the Catholic Church held a conclave to elect a new pope. Now, I have not seen the movie, but I heard it's really amazing. And when all of this was happening, it was recommended everywhere. Everyone was talking about the movie. So maybe I'll finally watch it next year. We'll see. But on May 8th, Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost? I'm so sorry. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. He was elected, taking the name Pope Leo the 14th. And here's the kicker. He's American. Born and raised on Chicago's South Side, first American pope in the entire history of the Catholic Church. I remember when this was announced and my social media was just Pope Leo this, Pope Leo that, Pope Leo, 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 Pope, Pope, Pope. Whether you're Catholic or not, I mean, this was huge. He's a White Sox fan. He plays Wordle. Just feels like a very different kind of pope, you know? But here's a story that deserved way more attention, in my opinion. Uganda declared an end to its Ebola outbreak in May, which was just less than 3 months after it was confirmed at the capital. So just 3 months and they eradicated it or whatever. Like they declared an end. That's an incredibly fast response that saved a lot of lives, but it barely got any attention and barely any coverage. Can you imagine if COVID had only lasted 3 months? Wouldn't that have been nice? Oh, and Thailand legalized same-sex marriage in May, becoming the first country in Southeast Asia to do so. That's progress, people. June was when things got kind of intense internationally. On June 13th, Israel conducted a massive airstrike on Iran's nuclear facilities. This kicked off what became known as the 12-Day War. It was a brief but intense conflict between the two nations. At the same time, Ukraine pulled off Operation Spiderweb, which was a covert drone strike deep into Russia that hit 5 air bases and destroyed 10 Russian military aircraft. It was pretty wild. Like there was a whole freaking war and shit was crazy. And that was just in the middle of the year. And then kind of buried in all of that, Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, crashed shortly after takeoff from Ahmedabad. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that, on June 12th, and that killed 280 people. It was the first fatal crash involving a 787 Dreamliner. In fashion news, because we need a palate cleanser here, Anna Wintour stepped down as editor-in-chief of American Vogue after 37 years on June 26th. Truly an end of an era. But June also had a really dark moment. On June 14th, Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband and their dog were shot and killed in their home in a politically motivated attack. State Senator John Hoffman and his wife were also shot but survived. Political violence in the U.S. At this point was definitely heightened. It was getting worse, and this was a stark reminder of that. Also, I just want to say that Yvette Hoffman, John Hoffman's wife, she was shot 8 times. And she was allegedly shielding her daughter from being shot. July is when we got the flood tragedy in Texas. From July 4th to the 7th, devastating floods hit central Texas, killing at least 135 people, with over 100 reported missing. This included the Camp Mystic tragedy, where children at a summer camp were killed, and it was just absolutely heartbreaking. But July, we also got some comedic relief. We've got the moment of the year, the Coldplay Kiss Cam scandal. And if you're not familiar, there was a Coldplay concert in July where this married CEO and one of his employees, like chief people officer or something, they were caught on the Kiss Cam. And when the camera had landed on them, they immediately tried to hide their faces. I think she like ducked down and turned away. And Chris Martin just straight up joked from the stage that they might be having an affair. And I mean, little did we know they were actually having an affair. The internet went insane. People identified them as Andy Byron, CEO of Astronomer, and Kristen Cabot, their HR chief. Both were reportedly married at the time, and they both resigned shortly after. The video got over 100 million views. There were memes after memes after memes, Halloween costumes, even the Philadelphia Phillies mascot reenacted it. This was kind of like the cultural moment of 2025, I think, or at least funny cultural moment, maybe. But on a more serious note, the International Court of Justice in The Hague ruled that governments failing to curb emissions could be in breach of international law. Non-binding, but experts called it a landmark decision. And NASA, an India's space agent, launched NISAR, NISAR, on July 30th, the first satellite using dual microwave frequencies for radar observation. It's cool space stuff, and space freaks me out. So if I think it's cool, it's got to be kind of cool, I think, because otherwise everything else freaks me out. Oh, and someone discovered an interstellar comet called 3I Atlas in July. And this sparked all kinds of theories about extraterrestrial life, because that's what we do. August is when things got a little fun. Ooh. On August 26th, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce announced their engagement on Instagram. They captioned their photo, "Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married." So cute. The photos showed a gorgeous garden proposal in Lee's Summit in Missouri. The internet absolutely lost it, of course. We'd been watching this relationship since she showed up at the Chiefs game back in 2023, and now they're getting married. It's so cute. What did he say? Like, rock out? No, that's not right. I don't know. Something about Arrowhead. In tech news, OpenAI released ChatGPT 5 on August 7th, and it was described as a major advancement in AI reasoning and autonomy, and it kicked off an AI arms race that dominated the tech world basically through the rest of the year. In political news, Trump ordered the deployment of the National Guard to Washington, D.C. on August 11th, claiming it would, quote, rescue the nation's capital from crime. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser opposed this, noting that crime was actually down. It was tensions that were high, one might say. And sadly, we lost some legends. Ozzy Osbourne died on July 22nd at the age of 76. And astronaut Jim Lovell, commander of the Apollo 13 mission, died in August at 97. Moving on to September, which was also a pretty heavy month. On September 10th, Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA, was assassinated at Utah Valley University during a campus event. The suspected shooter fled but surrendered the next day. And this sparked massive, massive political tensions across the country. And whatever your politics, like, I don't want to get into it too much. I just don't like when people play God. I don't like the idea of somebody knowing someone else's fate. And I mean, call me crazy, call me sensitive, but I don't like murder. I don't know. I didn't even know who he was before he died, so I don't have opinions on him. I just don't like murder. Okay? On a completely different note, Carlo Acutis, who died at age 15 from leukemia, was canonized by Pope Leo XIV on September 7th. He's widely called the first millennial saint and the patron saint of the internet. It's kind of a sweet story that was happening in the middle of all this chaos and was kind of overlooked. Major protests started in Nepal on September 8th. Thousands of Gen Z protesters took to the streets after the government banned social media. Things got pretty dramatic. The government complex actually burned, and it was just a whole thing. And we lost some more legends. Robert Redford died in his sleep at 89 on September 16th. And fashion designer Giorgio Armani died in September as well at the age of 91. In October, we got some resolution to ongoing conflicts. On October 13th, Hamas released the last 20 living Israeli hostages. A ceasefire went into effect on October 10th in the Israel-Hamas war. Sean Diddy Combs was sentenced to 50 months in prison on October 3rd after being convicted on charges related to drug-fueled parties. Wild fall from grace, I would say. I don't want to talk too much about Diddy because honestly, it scares the shit out of me. We got a historic moment. Sarah Mullally was appointed the first female Archbishop of Canterbury on October 3rd. Her installation ceremony is scheduled for March 2026. And in October, we lost Jane Goodall, the legendary conservationist who devoted her life to studying chimpanzees. She died at 91 on October 1st while on a speaking tour. Her legacy is absolutely incredible. I grew up watching Jane Goodall. I think for school once we watched one of her documentaries or a documentary about her or something. We went to the Science Museum and watched it. Maybe that was Girl Scouts, I don't know, but that one hit pretty hard for me. I mean, she lived a good long life and she did so many good things. So there's happiness in that, but damn, that was sad. There aren't very many people in this world who not only just like say good things, but actually they do the work, they put in the time. You know, they put their money where their mouth is, they put their time where their mouth is, they put their hands to work, and there just truly aren't that many people who we idolize who actually do that. And I think you should take a good look at some of the people who you idolize and do they practice what they preach? Even when they're not being recorded or filmed. Like, are they good people? And that was Jane Goodall. She was such a good person. It's just sad. Anyway, November was all about politics. The longest government shutdown in American history finally ended in November. And then on November 4th, Democrats swept the elections. They won major races in New York City, New Jersey, and Virginia, like by the double digits. This was seen as a major referendum on Trump's policies. And another wild story that got buried in November, Tesla shareholders approved a $1 trillion, like with a T, as in like too much money, a $1 trillion compensation package for Elon Musk on November 26th. It's one of the largest in corporate history. He could receive stock awards worth up to that amount over the next decade if he meets certain targets. $1 trillion. Tragedy struck Hong Kong when a massive fire engulfed the Wong Fuk Court apartment complex on November 26th. It burned for more than 40 hours and it killed more than 150 people. Just absolutely devastating. In sports news, Jannik Sinner successfully defended his title at the ATP Finals, defeating Carlos Alcaraz. And now we are in December, almost caught up. The biggest and most recent tragedy was the Bondi Beach attack on December 14th. The father and son opened fire on a Hanukkah celebration at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia, killing 15 people and injuring more than 40, making this the deadliest terrorist incident in Australia's history. It's just truly heartbreaking. I'm sure you saw the video of that man who attacked one of the gunmen, a true hero. Australia also made headlines for implementing a social media ban for anyone under 16 on December 10th. They're targeting sites like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. They're the first major country to do this, so we'll see how it plays out. I'm curious what you think. Growing up on the internet, I've seen people hang themselves. I saw a man beheaded. I've seen a man put a glass jar up his ass, and it broke. Like, the internet is a wild place. So, I don't know. I was like 13 when I saw that man beheaded. I don't think that we need to see that. Like, it fundamentally changed my brain. And also, not even just like the absolute extremes of beheading, but think about like the freaking perverts. So, if we can protect kids from perverts and videos of people being beheaded, and then the guy that would like feed kittens to a snake, and then later on he actually murdered somebody on camera and put it on the internet. Like, the internet's crazy. Ooh, I'm all about like free internet and all that shit, but damn, it is scary. So I'm curious. I'm curious what you guys think about that. Sorry I rambled on about that, but that is pretty wild. We'll see how it plays out. In sports, Inter Miami CF, led by Lionel Messi, won the club's first Major League Soccer Cup on December 6th. I believe everyone referred to it as Messi Magic. In December, we also lost director Rob Reiner and his wife. They were found dead from apparent stab wounds in their Los Angeles home in December. He is probably best known for his film work. He directed The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, A Few Good Men. I grew up watching TV Land when I was little, and I was first introduced to him. I think he was only in a few episodes, but All in the Family. He is more than just a director. Rob Reiner, like Jane Goodall, was someone who didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. He was a major force in Californian politics. He drove the First Five, which was an early childhood initiative. He spearheaded efforts for LGBTQ plus marriage equality. He co-founded the American Foundation for Equal Rights. He is just all around a good guy who cared about other people. So it was sad news. I think a lot of people really felt that loss. And finally, December 16th marked the 250th anniversary of Jane Austen's birth. Happy birthday, Jane Austen. If you are a big reader, I'm sure you're familiar with how important her work is. I mean, 250 years after her birth, and we're still referencing her novels. Pride and Prejudice is the big one. I think Mansfield Park and Emma, and they're all just about love and courtship, the practicality of marriage in terms of the 18th century. I would recommend finding something by Jane Austen and giving it a whirl, or watch a movie based off of her work if you don't want to read a book. And before we wrap up, I wanted to just mention a few other things that happened this year. The Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles defeated Kansas City Chiefs 40-22, denying them a third consecutive title. Jalen Hurts was named MVP. And Kendrick Lamar, Kung Fu Kenny, his halftime show averaged 133.5 million views. It's the most watched Super Bowl halftime show ever. And his little bootcut jeans, I think they were Celine when I looked them up because he's fancy, became the fashion moment of 2025. I went and I bought myself some bell bottoms. And as we are headed into my favorite season, much like Moira Rose, award season is my favorite season. The Grammys. Beyonce finally won Album of the Year for Cowboy Carter. It only took forever. The Oscars went to Anora as the big winner. If you haven't seen it, fantastic. And then this was the year for the K-pop Demon Hunters. The animated Netflix film became a global sensation. The fictional K-pop groups in the movie ended up topping real music charts for months. Their songs got Grammy and Golden Globe nominations. Netflix said it was their most watched movie of all time. That's pretty crazy. A fictional band had real chart success. I mean, there's a fictional band whose song should have made it to the charts if it didn't. I'm not going to go look back, but you guys remember Protozoa? Zoom, 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 make my heart go boom, boom. You know, that went platinum in my house for sure. And so did the Wiggles, Fruit Salad, yummy, yummy. And the Wiggles, they were on the Australian channel where bands do covers of songs, and the Wiggles covered a Tame Impala song, but then they did their own little remix and they added fruit salad. Yummy, yummy. 2025 was pretty weird, you guys. Oh, and speaking of weird, Labubu's, the Labubu dolls, the toothy little plush dolls, they became one of the hottest collectibles of the year. They were designed by Hong Kong artist Kasing Lung, and they were sold in blind boxes. People either loved them or thought they were creepy. I never got one. I don't know if the trend has passed. I would absolutely take one. I love a creepy little cutie thing. And Katy Perry, she went to space on Blue Origin. I mean, not just her, but Gayle King went. A lot of people went, or not a lot of people, but a few women went. The internet memed the moment of her holding up a daisy and singing What a Wonderful World. And if you weren't familiar, her daughter is named Daisy. So that's why she brought the daisy. And I thought that was really cute. But people really were split on that. It was either a cool moment or dumb and a waste of money. So however you look at it, it's still, I think, pretty impressive. I mean, I don't think I would ever really go to space. As I just mentioned a little while ago, space freaks me the fuck out. But I don't know. As space exploration becomes more and more common, maybe I'll be less freaked out. I don't want to like be floating in the cold forever. Oh, hell no. Freaks me out. We live in such a strange timeline, you guys. And my prediction is that the space exploration thing I feel like was really hot for a minute and now it's quiet again. I think they're going to go back to the ocean. I I don't think that we learned our lesson from the submarine that imploded on itself, and I think more and more is going to happen in the ocean. I'm already being targeted. I say targeted, but my algorithm is already showing me all these videos me, trying to convince the viewer to go work on these oil rigs. Like, hell no. Have you ever seen Deepwater Horizon? I do not want to go work on an oil rig. I don't think you could make me. I mean, you probably could make me, but I never want to. So yeah, that was 2025. We started the year with devastating natural disasters. Then there were historic elections, Taylor Swift's engagement, political assassinations, pig kidney transplants, fictional K-pop groups topping real charts while fighting demons, the Coldplay Kiss Cam scandal, the first American Pope. I mean, it was an eventful year when you really think about it. And I didn't even touch on all the pop culture moments. There's so many. It was a heartbreaking year. It was a hopeful year. It was a bonkers year. This is the world we're living in now. All we can do is try to keep up, stay informed, support each other, and maybe when you can, try to laugh at some of the absurdity of it all, because every day I feel like I want to both bash my head against a wall, but then I also want to go run in a field and just laugh and be joyful. I don't know. This year has been crazy. So I love talking about Spotify Wrapped. I love talking about music in general. So now let me tell you about my Spotify Wrapped. I know that some people hate on the Spotify Wrapped thing. I love seeing, still to this day, people will post a screenshot and be like, OMG, that's totally me. Like, yeah, babe, it's your data. It's literally you. And they're surprised by what they see. But yes, we're going to dive into my Spotify Wrapped. I love seeing other people's Spotify Wraps. That's how sometimes I learn different music. Growing up, I had a lot of friends who really influenced my musical tastes. And so especially if I see their Spotify Wraps, I like to see what they're listening to now. Because I think that they really helped shape what I listen to. I'm so sorry to name drop, but nobody listens to this anyway, and I won't use last names. But growing up, I had a friend, Adrienne. She would make me mix CDs. She always had like cool music. I think she introduced me to Hello Goodbye. If you remember that band, we loved Blue October. We went to a Blue October and a Yellow Card concert once. It was so cool. My friend Janelle, she would always have cool music. I can't even think. She introduced me, I think, to Go Crash Audio. It's a very niche band. I think it was her. It might have been Julia. Julia also had cool music. She introduced me to Kanye, Biggie. I'm trying to think of who else. I don't know. I can't think of all the music that she introduced me to, but we were really into Mayday Parade as kids. And then my friend Sarah. My whole life, Sarah always had like a million CDs from The Used to Eminem to I don't even know, just everything, anything and everything in between. And so I think she also helped open up my musical mind. And so yeah, those four ladies, I owe you a lot. Anyway, so it says I listened to 10,201 minutes of music this year. So that is 7 consecutive days. Sometimes I feel like there's no way I listen to that, but I don't know. Those commutes sometimes. You would think that only living 5 miles from work would be like a 15-minute drive, but no, it's like 45 minutes. This traffic here is mind-boggling. All these left lane campers, man. Colorado, learn to learn. Learn that the left lane is for passing. Anyway, I listened to 254 genres. It says, tastes like yours can't be defined, but let's try anyway. How are they going to define my taste? 254 genres. I find that crazy, but then I think about if somebody asks, like for Christmas, I made my boyfriend's little brother put on the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance while we were leaving the bar. And his mom asked if this was emo music. And I think I said, yes, but a different kind of emo music because emo music has so many different. Oh, no, I know what it was. We listened to Get Out by Circa Survive, banger of a song. And I think it was Cole's dad asked if it was emo music. And I was like, kind of. I mean, I think people would lump it in with the emo scene, but it's different emo music because like My Chemical Romance is different from Circa Survive, and that's different from Panic at the Disco. And there are just all these little bands, like there's pop emo, you'll find out Midwest emo, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, so my top genres were indie rock, Midwest emo, and it's a very specific kind of emo. Let me tell you who. I mean, I think a good example of Midwest emo. Oh, the Front Bottoms and Tiny Moving Parts. I think one of them even has a song, Minnesota. That's how I say it. Anyway, Mom Jeans, that's a good band. There's some newer bands too, like Hot Mulligan. I keep getting some of their songs and I would put them under Midwest emo. I've never looked them up if they are from the Midwest or not. There's also like American Football, that band. That's Midwest emo. That was my number 2. My number 3 was indie pop. So I listen to indie rock and indie pop. 4 is oldies. I'm not sure what that means because when I think of oldies, I think of like Elvis. But are they talking about, because this year I was in a like 60s, 70s funk, but I also started listening to more 80s music this year. I always ignored the 80s, and I think that's because my parents said that they ignored the 80s, but I have grown to appreciate the 80s a lot for their cars. I used to hate the boxy cars. Love it. Like an 80s BMW, if Cole was here, he would tell you. An M3, I don't know. I like that boxy look, the clean lines, something that looks like somebody is definitely snorting coke in. Like I like those cars. And then I've really started to like more and more of the music. It doesn't help that Stranger Things has been on lately. So I've been listening to more music, like I think we're alone now, some Tiffany. So I don't know what they mean by oldies. And then my fifth top genre was rap. My listening age is 40. It says, since you were into music from the early 2000s, you've got decades of good taste. I don't know. Early 2000s. I don't know what I was listening to. Probably all my old emo shit. Um, you listened to 1,332 songs this year. That's pretty crazy. 1,332 songs in 1 year. My number 5 song is Wake Up by Young Franco and Master Peace. And I beat the shit out of that song. And then I saw it, I think, on a Honda commercial. And I was like, damn it. All the songs I like always end up as like a TikTok trend or a commercial, which actually I do get some music from commercials. Like, I think that's how I found out about the Lumineers, to be honest. So don't hate on commercials because sometimes they bring you amazing artists, okay? My number 4th song was Splinter by Wes Parker. I get targeted a lot of music on my Instagram, or not targeted, but suggested. And sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. And that song was one that was suggested to me and it hit. So again, sometimes ads aren't the worst. Number 3 is I Took It Back. I listen to it a lot. It's called Mixtape by Brand New. I had a couple bullies in my life this year. And I don't know, Mixtape just hit right. And I would listen to it almost every day after work, probably multiple times. I'm sick of your tattoos and the way you don't appreciate Brand New or May. My number 2 song was Car by Royal Otis. I think that was a new song this year. Meet you in the car in the corner. And my number 1 song was Moody by Royal Otis. So I got 2 Royal Otis songs, number 1 and number 2. And Moody, my girl's a bitch when she's moody. You know? I don't know if I'm allowed to sing. I'm not monetized, but I think there are still like copyright laws, so hopefully nobody sues me. My top albums, number 5 was The Dream Is Over by Pup. I think that was a Cole thing. I think we probably listened to that album while on a road trip because I only know a couple songs by Pup, so I don't know. Number 4 was Come Around Sundown by Kings of Leon. I love Kings of Leon. They've been my favorite band since I was middle school or high school. And then the rest of my top albums are Royal Otis. So I have Royal Otis, Prats and Payne, Royal Otis, Sofa Kings, and Royal Otis Hickey, which is their newest album. I dog on men, and I always say I hate to hear men speak, but apparently, man, do I love to hear them sing because they are dominating my Spotify Wrapped. I listened to 774 artists this year. Number 5, Kings of Leon. Eek! They will always be in my top 5. Number 4 is Role Model. I love that diva. He's got some good little tunes, and I'm looking forward to hearing more. Number 3 was Brand New. They went on tour this year, and unfortunately I didn't go see them, but it reignited my love for them, and so I listened to them a lot this year. And number 2 is a new band to me. I think I heard about them in 2024. And the band is called Les Chiv, and I love them so much. They're out of Australia, and they're a little bit rock and rolly. Maybe I wouldn't say grungy, but maybe grunge adjacent. And the number 1, Royal Otis. That's like, I had 2 of their songs and 3 of their albums on my top. So of course they're going to be my top artist of the year. They're also out of Australia. They're just great. And like their newest album, they worked with people from the band Jungle. If you've ever listened to them, so good. Their harmonies are just like beautiful. They do like the falsettos and like, oh, it's so good. And so on their newest album, you can kind of hear their influence in that. There's much more harmonizing, and they're a great band. Give them a shot. They're fun. Moving on, Spotify Wrapped puts you in some sort of society, which kind of spooky, but I belong in the Cloud State Society. It says that your club finds peace through music. New members are gifted houseplants. I was not gifted a houseplant, and if I was, it would be dead. I got a strawberry plant this year. It gave me a couple strawberries, but they were like moldy by the time I could pick them. And then I have a cactus that I have had since I was 16. And this thing, it lived with me in the dorms. It moved with me to Minneapolis, and then it moved back to Wisconsin, and then it moved to Oregon, and then it's moved to Colorado. And it broke in half once when I was still a teenager, and I just put the top back on and it grew back together. Cactus is really good. If you have a boo-boo, put some cactus stuff on there. Some cactus juice. It's better than aloe vera. Anyway, it grew back together. Her name is Tammy. And she grew back together. She kind of had a weird kink in her for the longest time, but she was growing tall. When I got her, she was smaller than my hand. Now she's probably, I don't know, like as long as my arm. But she did finally break in half again. And so now I have Tammy 1 and Tammy 2, just like Parks and Rec. And just like Ron, there's now a third Tammy because Tammy, I don't know if she would be considered Tammy 2 because at the roots, because Tammy 1 grows tall, tall, tall. The roots are new, right? I don't know how to explain a cactus. So anyway, I'm going to call the base Tammy 2. Tammy 2 grew a new baby on her, and I'm just letting her figure it out. And then Tammy 1, the top half of the original Tammy, she is in a new pot, and she still has her kink from the first time she broke in half. And yeah, I'm just hoping that someday they grow big and tall, but we'll see. They're pretty brittle right now. And my strawberry plant is non-existent. It's turning into dust outside. So Cloud State Society, if you're out there, do not gift me a house plant. But I do find peace through music. So thanks. It says that I am in great company. 16% of global listeners are in my club. Club favorites, The Backseat Lovers, great band. Kings of Leon, great band. Delwater Gap, amazing. And Dope Lemon. This was my year of Dope Lemon. I was really enjoying their music. They kind of have, I don't know if it's just a one person or a whole band, but there's a Bob Dylan vibe, but current and cool and different. I don't know how to explain it. Check out Dope Lemon. So that's my rambling. That's me talking about the year. That's me talking about my Spotify Wrapped. If there's anything that I missed, I mean, feel free to chat about it in the comments. I'm sorry this episode was kind of hodgepodgey. I was traveling for the holidays, and then I had a cold that I'm still recovering from. But hopefully you had a great 2025. Even if you didn't, I hope you found some moments that make you smile. Maybe you learned some lessons. I feel like 2025 was pretty hard, but like transformative for me. And I feel like 2026 is also going to be hard, but it'll make more sense. And I don't do resolutions. I used to, and I could never keep them. I put so much pressure on myself. A friend of mine, who is also my boss, Camila, she has a podcast called This Is Not Therapy, and she'll be discussing some things in her episode. So I'm sorry if there's any crossover. I don't think there is. But she talks about picking a word of the year. And at work last year, we did that as well. So my word of 2025 was delusional. I think a lot of people thought I was just completely not taking it seriously, but I was very unhappy at that job. And very unhappy with a lot of things. And I was like, no, I'm going to be delusional this year. I'm going to do things and not care about like if it's actually reachable or not. Like why are we not dreaming big anymore? So, I mean, one of my delusional things was to do a podcast. I mean, it took like 10 months or took 11 months for me to get a podcast going and whatever, but I finally did it. And I think being delusional sometimes can be healthy. Like, reach for those stars, reach for the moon, whatever. Like, even if it seems completely unattainable, like, just keep saying that you're going to do it and start manifesting and start looking at little things that you can do to get there because something huge seems like it's out of reach. But if you look closely, there's a bunch of tiny little steps you can take and you'll get there. It's just not going to be overnight. I think my word, I told Camila that I think my word will be cringe. Kind of goes with delusion, or delusional. Like, just, you remember when you were little and you could like something and it didn't matter if somebody else didn't like it? Like, it was so cool to you. Like, loved jumping on the trampoline and singing to the birds. I loved my pets, and I don't know, somewhere along the line, there was a time in my life where I like pushed everything aside. Like, I've always loved my pets, but I didn't want to be the weird girl that just loved animals all the time and blah, blah, blah. But then I worked with this girl, Amanda, who during her interview, I overheard her. They were like, tell me about yourself. And she's like, well, I love animals. I was like, oh, I do too, but I never tell anyone. And I don't know. I just think about things like that and just embracing your cringe, because like this whole podcast started because I decided to embrace the cringe. I still don't really know what I'm doing. I'm kind of figuring it out as I go, but I figured if I don't start, I never will. Embrace your cringe. Just enjoy things because you like them. Oh my gosh. Before I go, actually, oh my gosh. You guys, my horoscope. I'm sorry. I'm going to scare you. Okay, in 2026, everyone gets both more real and more insane. This is from the app CoStar. Saturn and Neptune finally kiss, so it's time to take some dreams very, very seriously and throw others in the trash. Some major shit might happen. Neptune and Uranus are exactly where they were during the American Civil War. But don't think about it too hard. History is a spiral, not a circle. Lean into the desire for total change. Become very relaxed. Why not? Overshare with strangers. Resell old clothes. Buy gold. Ugh. So, I mean, my horoscope's even kind of telling me in a way that I'm interpreting it to embrace the cringe. So anyway, okay. So happy New Year. Happy 2026. We will chat next week. I love ya. Love you. Bye.